Alright, y'all, so Twitter made me mad today, okay? But it's a good thing because now I have content for you, okay? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so the original post is, left this guy undelivered for 5 days and he unfollowed me, fragile little princess, couldn't handle it. Now, here's the thing. I feel like a lot of people just expect me to disagree with women all the time, but I respect this sentiment, just like I mentioned in the video yesterday, where I mentioned, if you do something like block someone because they ghosted you and they're not talking to you, it's kind of a pathetic move because it's like, they're already not talking, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, in your mind, you were rejected, so now you feel the need to reject them harder, okay? Unfollowing, I feel like is a horrible idea. However, I will give context to this. In a situation where he followed her and DM'd her without a follow back, and then he didn't get a message in however many days, I understand the unfollow. However, I would say you shouldn't have followed her in the first place, okay? And here's the thing. Never DM somebody who hasn't followed you back. Now, I could see like an exception being made, like if you like just don't follow them at all. You know what I mean? Like you don't follow each other, you just DM them and it's like whatever, it can go wherever. But if you follow them and they don't follow you back, it's simply not a good sign. Not saying that everyone who follows you back is going to be instantly into you, but the thing is, if they don't follow you back, they're absolutely not into you. So there's no reason to DM them. So again, in that situation where it's like, if you got left undelivered and you were like straight up in the DM request, bro, like you shouldn't have put yourself in that position in the first place. Now, again, that we got that hypothetical out the way, the situation I'm imagining is they were talking, they were texting for like a little bit, and then he was undelivered for 5 days, okay? Personally, I don't think that's that big of a deal. Like, look what Shawty commented. She said, but it actually proves your ego is more fragile because you left him undelivered for 5 days for no reason. Mind you, she never said why she did or why she didn't. Like, she didn't say, oh, I just did it for no reason. But it said, but to satisfy your own ego, and if he choose self-respect, you are making mockery of it to satisfy your fragile ego again. Like, again, like people who are rejected, right? These are rejected people. Like this, no, like this commenter, they seem very nice, very respectful. But it's like people like this, people who say things like this, absolutely are just like the rejects, not the rejects of society. Like I'm sure like they fit in, but you know what I mean? Like there are people who get rejected. There are people who take L's in the dating game, okay? And they're trying to turn this into a win. Like they're like, oh, because when they see this, okay, left this guy undelivered for 5 days and he unfollowed me, fragile ego. Me, when I see this, I identify with her. You know what I mean? I identify with like, oh, like I've been the type of person that leaves someone on red for however long and then they end up unfollowing. You know what I mean? Or not red, delivered for however long and then they unfollow. What people like this are doing is identifying with the guy who was undelivered for 5 days because they're thinking to themselves, wait, I've been in similar situations where I was left undelivered and I didn't like that. So now I feel like I have to defend this random guy that I don't know. Like I'm gonna keep it a full being with some of you. Some of you identify yourselves with losers. Okay, you identify with yourself. Again, this guy who was left undelivered for 5 days, he's taking a loss. The same way, sometimes, like if I make a video being like, oh, ugly people are so horrible, blah, 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 a lot of people will get mad because they identify themselves with the hypothetical ugly person that I'm talking about, even though I didn't describe any sort of characteristics that they could attach themselves to. So it's like when you see a post like this that in general is saying something pretty reasonable, and then you have comments like this where it's like, oh, well, actually, like you're bad, like actually you're not good because like blah 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 blah, the reason that like this person, like I can tell that you think this person is like down bad, but actually you're down bad because blah 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 blah. Like what about like it's actually laughable. Like what about leaving someone undelivered for 5 days alludes to a fragile ego? Because again, she didn't say why. Now imagine if she was like, oh, like I was afraid of like coming on too strong or something like that, then yeah, like of course, like fragile ego. But it's like she literally just said he was undelivered for 5 days. For what? She could have just like straight up not liked the guy. Or like I say in this comment right here, she could have been busy. Like for like, and people are like, oh, busy for 5 days. Have y'all like not like actually been busy before? And also, when y'all are in this like stage with someone where you can leave them undelivered for 5 days, most of the time, that's not like your boyfriend, that's not your girlfriend. So it's like, do you really owe this person like this time of yours? You're probably talking to other people. It's just like stuff like this, like this comment is pure cope. Again, seems like a very nice person, okay, very kind person. It's not a diss against them. But this is literally like, when I see people just like coping against someone that they feel like is like quote unquote bad, like because again they feel like this is like the bad person, like oh, like she's laughing at someone, blah blah blah, and they feel the need to flip it for absolutely no reason. It's because again they identify themselves with the person who's losing in this scenario. Okay, so they're identifying themselves with the guy instead of identifying themselves with the poster. Because the thing is, some of these people haven't been in the situation as a poster, because anytime someone comes into their life, they're all over them immediately. Oh my gosh. My bad, I thought I paused it, but I did not. But you know what I'm saying though? Okay, now we're in the nitty gritty. Okay, my comment. Or maybe she was busy and he overreacted and she said busy for 5 straight days. Bro, y'all don't be like, you're telling me you've never been like busy for 5 days and just completely lost track of time? Again, mind you, this person is someone you just like met probably, at this point, she probably met bro like weeks ago, maybe months ago. You know what I mean? Like, this is not your girlfriend. This is not your boyfriend. You don't owe them this kind of communication. And that's why I say, like, right here, okay? Because this person's like, oh, well, you should just say that, like, you know, you're busy. It's just not that deep. You know what I mean? Like, who deserves that? Who earns that kind of explanation? Like, people don't owe you these things. The mindset of thinking like people in dating owe you something is why a lot of people fail in dating, why they're not doing a good job. You know what I mean? Because again, like, this mindset, oh, the least she could do is say that I'm busy. No, the least she could do is nothing. What she did, like, that's the least she could do. And again, okay, this is where identity comes in. You're telling me you've never been in a situation where you're busy, you know, you got stuff going on, and like you just like don't tell someone that you have stuff going on, like, because like you just tell them after the fact. Like there have been plenty of situations. I mean, one time I was staying in New York, shit got really shiesty real fast. Okay, basically I'd end up going back to Pennsylvania. I did not tell one of the shorties that was in New York that I was linking up with about that until like after a few days, right? So I low-key did this ghost her for a few days because I just had a lot of stuff going on. Again, I had to like leave, so I had to pack all my stuff. I had to like make sure everything was prepared. And at the time I had like this Fashion Nova deal. Like I had to make sure everything was fine. Again, it was just a lot of stuff going on, okay? So it's like I came back after the fact and I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, things were just going on. But it's like, y'all have never been in that situation, okay? And the thing is, here's the thing. I'm not saying that you have to like be in this situation, but like when you aren't in the situation, you can't put yourself in the shoes of the person that is, okay? So it's like you can't see that like this is completely reasonable, because the thing is, mind you, I've been in situations where I'm talking to someone like we just met and they like don't text me for like a few days or even a few weeks, or sometimes literally, bro. I remember when I was single, you know, me and someone, we'd follow each other back, we'd talk for a bit, and then like not talk, like straight up for like months. And again, like I mentioned in the last video, there was that one girl, she ghosted me because I was 21, but then a few months later, we just started talking again. Like it was, and the problem with the unfollow is you're literally, I'm gonna get more into this later, but like you're wasting an opportunity. But my point is, as someone who's experienced both sides of it, I'm telling you, it is not that big of a deal. It is not worth unfollowing someone because they're not texting you back. Now, mind you, if they unfollow you, of course unfollow them back, because I guess that's like clear of some sort of like intention or lack of interest, whatever. But you sitting here being like, oh, why did this person I just met, like, why aren't they texting me back? It's been a few days, blah, 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 blah. It's asinine. And also it tells me that you yourself don't have enough going on with your life, like just as far as like life stuff, like you're not accomplishing things, but also you're not dating enough people. If you're in talking stages, you should be talking to multiple people until you decide to commit to one person. And when you commit to that one person, it should be consensual. It shouldn't just be in my head like, oh yeah, I'm gonna commit to this person. It should be you two have that conversation and you commit to each other. We are in a society right now that's obsessed with instant gratification, okay? So it's like, oh, this person that like I just met, like they're not texting me back, they're not all over me. Oh no, they have to go. And it's just like I keep seeing guys being like, oh, L take from you, BRS, L take. It's because you're identifying yourself with the losers. You're identifying yourself with the party that's getting burned. And you need to sit and you need to ask yourself, why is it that you're identifying yourself with the losing party? Okay, because it's like listening to a song. Okay, like I listen to a song where someone's like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna fuck your bitch. I'm not taking that as like, oh, this rapper, they're gonna sleep with my girl. Oh no. I'm taking it as I'm the rapper in that instance and I'm, you know, sleeping with your girl. Like that, like that's how I look at that. But it's like what you're doing is the equivalent of like being like, oh man, you know, Playboy Cardi, he's gonna sleep with my girl. Oh no. And it's not even just in dating things like that. Like when 21 Savage raps about like hitting a stain on people. Like there are other rappers where they're talking about hitting stains. I'm like, ooh, okay, in this scenario, I'm the one hitting the stain. But someone like 21 Savage, there are times where I'm like, bro, like he's rapping to me like I'm one of the ops, okay? But that's because in that situation, I'm identifying with myself of the loser of that dynamic. You know why? Because I'm not a gangbanger, you know? Now, the way I would change that is if I became a gangbanger. Now, obviously, there's no reason to do that. There's no reason to become a gangbanger. But my point is, when it comes to situations like this, you should become the gangbanger. Because, and the thing is, leaving someone undelivered for 5 days, that's not the worst thing you can do to somebody. Like, it's truly not. Like, this is not you. She's not a bad person because she left bro undelivered for 5 days. Like, she's simply not. So what you need to do is you need to get your hose up. You need to get your, I almost said businesses, bro. I don't want to sound like those types of guys, but just like things that you do, hobbies, anything, any goals you're aspiring to, you need to get that up. So when you're in a situation and you're talking to someone, not only could you be the one where it's like, oh, like 5 days just like flew by, I didn't even realize I didn't text this person, Or if someone didn't text you for 5 days, it's not a big deal because you have other stuff going on. The reason this guy unfollowed is because he didn't have other stuff going on with his life. And he's thinking to himself, oh, well, she doesn't like me. She's not texting me back, blah, 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 blah. Now, mind you, if it would be one thing if he was like double, triple, quadruple texting her, I still wouldn't say unfollow. I would just say, like, don't do that. Like, if it's that serious to you, something you need to understand, okay? And this is the whole, hold up, I'm going to make myself big for this one, okay? Because this is a real good point. You know why the nonchalant thing, even though people are like, oh, I hate nonchalant people. I need people to be like, blah, blah, blah. I need people to be all over me. I need people to be like crash out, blah, blah, blah. Do you know why the nonchalant thing works? It works because the more you expect from people, the less you get. Okay, and I've never said words that were more true in my life. The more you expect from a virtual stranger that you just met and that you're just talking to, well, you know, if they go somewhere for 5 days or if they're busy, they should tell me what's going on. You're not going to get that sort of thing, okay? If I'm single, right, and I just meet someone, I start texting them, that wouldn't even cross my mind. Like, oh, well, you know, if they go somewhere, they should definitely like text me, like let me know what's going on. So it's like I cannot get that same thing. I cannot get the communication that like someone like you or someone like these commenters want and be completely fine. And it's not like I'm missing out on anything because it's not something I expected. Because again, in all aspects of life, the more you expect, the less you get. So, because it's like, if I were to expect to walk into a room and everyone like clap and like cheer my name and I start chanting my name, I walk in there, that doesn't happen, boom, mood goes down. Okay, I feel shitty. I feel shitty because that thing didn't happen. But if I go in there not expecting it and it doesn't happen, I don't lose anything from that just because I didn't expect it. Okay, and the chance where that something like that does happen, then it's like I'm Gucci. Then it's like I gain. Okay, lowering your expectations, you have so much less to lose and so much more to gain in situations where you lower your expectations. And nothing I will tell you, like when it's like you expect more, you get less, people can sense when you expect things from them. And people absolutely hate it when you expect things from them, regardless of whether you know them well or you don't know them well. When people feel entitled to certain things, it makes you much less likely to want to give them that thing. This guy, you know, in this scenario, he didn't get to a point where he earned that kind of communication from her. He didn't generate enough interest. And the thing is, and I'll get more to this later, there's nothing wrong with not generating that interest when someone doesn't know you. And look, okay, don't get this twisted. And this is what some people are getting confused with in the comments. I'm not saying that you should involve yourself with some person who's like not sure about you at first. You know, like not sure if they're attracted to you, like stuff like that. What I'm saying is they should know without a doubt, like they're attracted to you, right? At first. Like that's exactly what you want. But it's at the same time, they don't know you. They don't know your personality. Okay. So there are plenty of situations where when I was single, I'm like just like another handsome man to this woman. Like she doesn't know me from any other guy on her roster. The same way I had multiple attractive women on the roster, and it's like it doesn't mean anything to me that you're attracted. Like no matter how attracted I am to you, I'm not gonna like act any sort of different way because it's not something that's new to me. Okay, because it's like you all are. It's like if you haven't done something that like warrants special treatment, you shouldn't expect special treatment. Like it's a much different situation than like, oh, you meet someone, right? You talk you like obviously ease into it, but you end up like talking every day for like 2-3 months, right? And then they ghost you for 5 days. That's very much a different situation. And it's something that's hard to explain, but it's like if they know you enough to separate you from the pack and then they still do stuff like that, that's when it's a problem. Okay. Like if they can tell, like there's so many situations where you're talking to someone, they can't tell you from anybody else. I remember this one girl, my username in her phone was Bryce, and in parentheses, tall and funny. You know why? Because she had a lot, like, that was the only way she could differentiate me, you know? And that's not like, it's not like a thing, you know what I'm saying? Now, once me and her got into it, it's like, oh, okay, now I know him more as a person. I know his lore, you know, he's a sweet guy, blah, 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 on top of all this stuff. And it's like, now, when we get to that point, then like if she were to do something like, oh, like I'm gonna ghost him for like however long, then I'm like, okay, now this is like an issue. Like now this is something where it's like I'm not really gonna finagle with it. Even in that situation, I wouldn't unfollow. I would simply just act accordingly. Okay, like if I'm in a situation where it's like, okay, clearly like I'm never gonna be this person's like first priority just for whatever reason, then it's just like I take where they are as a priority and lower them. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason to unfollow. It's right. You can still get what you want out of a person, even if like they're not completely obsessed with you. It's like there are things that's hard to explain because they're not spoken, but a lot of you seem to think that things progress faster than they do. Okay, when you're in the DMs, when you DM somebody, like that's not that serious. You know, like that's not Like a few days later, I'm not gonna tell you, oh, well, sorry, I'm busy, I have to do. Like, that's just not reasonable. Like, I don't owe that to you. Okay, we have no established relationship, but once there's like lore, like together, where it's like, oh, like me and you, like, see, here's the thing, and this is why conversations are so important. If there's a conversation, right, where it's like, hey, me and you, we're not dating right now, we're not really dating like soon per se, but we're working towards that point. That's when you get upset about things like this. That's when you can expect someone to communicate something to you. Because then at that point, the dynamic is like a mock relationship. You know what I mean? So it's like in a situation where you just met each other, you don't know what she wants, she doesn't know what you want, or like, gender is completely like ignorant. And I mean, gender is like completely irrelevant in this situation. Even if you guys are talking and there is a conversation and and the conversation is like, hey, I'm not looking for a relationship right now. You can't expect that person to notify you when they're going to be away for quote unquote 5 days. It's like y'all expect to be in like a mock relationship dynamic with these people from the jump. That's why people are like, oh, I can only talk to one person at a time. There are people who DM somebody and y'all have had a few messages back and forth. You're already telling your friends about it. Like, it's stupid. Everything happens in steps and we all know this, but sometimes like you guys try to pretend that you don't know. Okay. Cause I'm telling you this right now. And I feel like some of you are gonna be like, oh, well, the situation you're talking about, like where they talk about like what they want, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm sure like, what if they were in this situation? You're just assuming they weren't. If they were in a situation like that, he wouldn't be relegated to this guy. He wouldn't simply be left this guy undelivered for 5 days. It would be left this guy. She didn't even say left this guy I was talking to, or me and this guy were talking. It's straight up left this guy. He's a random man. You know what I'm saying? And we're living in a generation where everyone thinks they're so special and like so spectacular before people even like get to know them. And it's like, you got to understand, to people before you meet them, you're random. Like, I don't care who it is. You know what I mean? Obviously, I mean, there are certain situations like me, like I was like sometimes like I would be like stalked before someone started talking to me. So like I was just not really like just anybody. But like most situations I've been in, when I first meet someone, I'm just some guy. Even if they do know who I am based off content. So it's like you're mad at someone for treating you like an option when at this point, and hang in there with me. Listen to this. At that point, you are just an option. You literally, there's a point in all dating dynamics where you are just an option. You know what I mean? Where you are just a choice. You're not the choice, you're a choice. That's how meeting people works. That's how getting to know somebody works. But y'all take stuff like this so personal instead of keeping it P. And again, like people are like, oh, I hate nonchalant people. I hate nonchalant people. Why do you think nonchalant people get play? Because they know stuff like that. They know it's not that deep. They don't tweak out over this. You know what I mean? Like, again, like him unfollowing her, I'm sure it literally made him like less attractive in her eyes. There is nothing more attractive than someone who's cool, someone who's calm, someone who understands at the beginning of talking that you don't owe each other anything. Now, mind you, that's not them rubbing that fact in your face. I'm not saying you should talk to someone where like every time they talk to you, they're talking about like another guy or girl, or like someone else that they're talking to, or like, oh, blah, 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 blah. What I'm saying is someone where it's like, I don't have to tell you where I'm at right now. We just met. I don't have to tell you that like I had this thing after work. I don't have to tell you that I went to my friend's birthday party. I might mention it. It might be something that's fun to bring up, but I don't have to say that to you because I don't owe you an explanation. I don't have to tell you where I was. I went to the club. I went home with someone else. That's completely fine. Like, now, mind you, again, not going to bring that up to you because that's one, it's not your business. But two, obviously that's just not helpful in any way. But like went to the club, went home with someone else. I don't owe you anything. We just met. I don't even know if you're cool. I don't know your favorite color. I don't know anything about your upbringing. I don't know what you want in a relationship. Do you see what I mean? Like, you can think somebody's a lovely individual. Like, oh man, like I want them, blah, 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 blah. But you're not going to treat them like your soulmate when you first meet them. And it's like people are sitting here. Again, oh, you left that guy, you left him undelivered for 5 days? How could you? Your ego must be fragile. Like, what? This is some again, his name is just this guy. This is some random guy, and we're sitting here acting like she's some sort of demon, some sort of like just insecure. I can't believe you ghosted him for 5 days. And here's the thing, okay? For one, I hate these comments, bro. It's like you can't agree with a woman without them like accusing you of like wanting to sleep with her. But anyways, okay, not this. Me and this guy got into it, okay? And basically, I'm not gonna go. I might go word for word, but not right now. I explained to him that unfollowing somebody, blocking somebody because they haven't texted you back, right? Again, in a scenario, assuming that they follow you, because you should not be contacting anybody who does not follow you back. You shouldn't follow anybody who doesn't follow you back. You know what I mean? Like, this is simple stuff. But I was saying he messed up and was overreacting by acting like this, by responding to this from being on delivered 5 days, because you never know what can happen. You never know what things can lead to. Again, like the story I keep bringing up, girl, she ghosted me when she found out I was 21. A few months later, we started talking. When me and my girl first started texting on social media, we would leave each other undelivered for weeks, both of us, because we just have better shit to do. And we're not gonna trip about it. It's just we have better shit to do. We had other people to talk to at the time because we didn't know each other the way we ended up knowing each other. Until y'all have that conversation where it's oh, I kind of want serious things with you. You know what I mean? Maybe not right now, not this second, but I'd be interested in pursuing serious things with you. That's when shit like this comes in. Because again, who knows what she was doing for 5 days? Could have been busy, could have not been busy. Could just not felt like texting, bro. A few months from now, something could have came up. They could have started talking and bonded over a topic. Y'all understand? And here's the thing. That's another thing why because he's implying she's she's not interested if she's ghosting him. Here's the thing. Getting to know people is exhausting. These conversations that you have as a single person getting to know someone is exhausting. Okay? And everyone knows that. Everyone hates the small talk. But there's a point where you have to small talk before you can get to the larger talk. So I'm saying in a situation where he didn't unfollow her, right? A few months later, she posts something on her story that's interesting, and then he has an interest in it, and then they can talk and have an actual conversation, and then that's when things really start to happen between them. And it's this is it's a hypothetical, but it's a very specific example because this has happened to me multiple times in both ways. There are women that I was talking to, I was man, this conversation, I just hate the small talk, I don't really know where to go from here. Stop texting them, and then a few months later, slid up on my story to say something about something I posted about, and I was oh, me and you can have this conversation about this, and then boom, to promised land. And here's the thing. I know I said earlier where I was referencing this guy and being he's the loser of the situation, and I guess that's kind of true. But at the same time, you have to understand, this is not a loss. Being someone not leaving you undelivered for 5 days, bro, when it's someone you just met. Again, you should be talking to other people anyways. Something like this really shouldn't bother you because it's not personal, because they don't know you personally. It's if there's one point I can hammer into your head, it's the fact that these people don't know you. You literally DM them on Instagram, match with them on Tinder, and you expect them to oh well, I'm so sorry. I'm not gonna lie, if anything, that gives me the ick. I remember I'd be in situations, bro, where I just meet someone and they're communicating too much, as if I was their boyfriend or something. That would give me the ick. That would get me out of there, truly, because it's just not a part of the natural progression. Okay, and this is my problem. These people, they're not understanding. Now, shout out this guy. He's a follower and he was being very respectful for this conversation. People don't understand the progression of things like this. And also something he mentions it right here. I'm not gonna read the full thing, but basically people are oh, she's tripping over this unfollow. She's not tripping over the unfollow. She's just it happened. Oh brother, I can't believe this guy unfollowed. That's not tripping about it. You know what I mean? She's not here angry. Literally, she used an emoji. And it's something I mentioned here, bro. You should not be putting a timeline. It's the thing I mentioned where I'm hypothetically, months or a year later, y'all could start talking and just really hit it off immediately, right? Because the thing is, if she's not feeling a certain way about him, right? If she's not hitting it off with him, that means he's not hitting it off with her. It takes two to tango. So it's if the conversation isn't there, then he knows the conversation isn't there either. You going desperation mode and thinking to yourself, oh, well, this is where the conversation has to be. We have to be here. We have to get to this point. That doesn't make the conversation any better. And it doesn't help you in the long run. There's no justice that gets done to either party when you're forcing yourself to talk to someone just because you find them attractive and you're interested. But if the shit's not working, the shit's not working. I remember, bro, me and this girl, bro, our first conversation ever, one of them, straight up about bread. We were talking about, we were sitting there talking about nothing, bro. That shit was just unnecessary. When we had a real conversation start, again, it was she posted something on her story, I posted something on my story, we interacted with each other's stuff. Things that actually start a conversation, okay? A lot of you guys, you understand the conversation comes first. When I say that, I mean the topic of the conversation comes first. The conversation's already there. It's just y'all have to enter the space in which you can have the conversation. A lot of y'all are trying to create the space in which you can have the conversation out of midair, and that's why it doesn't work. You know what I mean? That's why you don't have. Now, here's the thing. I'm not someone who considers myself to have game, flirting, okay? But it's that's why you don't have game. You know what I mean? You don't have game because you're trying to manufacture out of thin air a conversation that isn't there. There's nothing to talk about. You know, and we've all had those conversations where you're like, bro, like there was absolutely nothing to talk about with this person. When you're in that situation, call it a day and wait for another opportunity. Like this is how social media made things so much easier, okay? Like it's not like the 90s where it's like everyone just like has a phone, so it's like you kind of have to text this person. Like you just have to like find a way to talk about something or like, oh, well, what's in the news, blah 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 blah. Social media will always give you topics to talk about if you're patient. And that's why if you reach out to someone and you like, or like you see someone right and you want to text them, you want to sign their DM so bad, wait, be patient. There's going to be a day where they post something on their story, they make a post in general that you have something to say about, okay? And then you can slide into their DMs actually having something to say and not just being like, hey, I think you're gorgeous. Let's talk. Hey, I don't think we should be. I'm not gonna lie. One of my lines was always, I don't think we should be strangers anymore. I'm a big fan of that one. But like, you know what I mean? It's like you don't have to, like, because again, even I say that, right? I would say that and it would work, right? Like, oh, I agree. We shouldn't be strangers then. What are we gonna talk about? Not shit. Not shit, bro. Like, so y'all just gotta be patient. Like y'all putting things on timelines. Where did I say that? Yeah, y'all putting things on timelines when it's not necessary. There's no reason. Oh yeah, something this guy said right here that I disagree with. He said, and again, it's not really an emotional response. Maybe he was feeling her and felt like okay, she wasn't feeling him, so he'd rather like get it out of sight, out of mind. The thing is, unfollowing someone because they're not talking to you is inherently an emotional reaction. Inherently, and it's like I feel crazy that I even have to explain that. Again, if you were to sit there and think, you could be like, maybe there's gonna be a time in the future where we talk about blah 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 blah. And the thing is, I mentioned to this guy, and I think he sees that as like waiting around to like see if like you get picked as a backup. That's not at all the same thing. Because again, it's just you're not known. Like sometimes it's not your opportunity. Sometimes it's simply not your time to shine with some person. Think about all the like emotionally damaged people in the world, the people who like aren't over their exes, okay, or are in crazy situationships, but like are like still like going out like trying to know people. You're not gonna compete with someone who's not over their ex or is invested in another situation. And that's not your fault. That doesn't mean they're less interested in you. Like y'all know the girl who called me her dad's name, like that girl, bro, like that story, I like referencing that story. Like she wasn't all that. Like she wasn't anything that was particularly special. But the thing is, there were people who would come to me during that time because I was talking to other people where like they were more attractive, they had more things going for them. But like I couldn't exactly give them the full energy that I was giving someone like her because I was in that situation. Okay, and that's not me relegating those people to be backups. That doesn't mean I saw those people as any lesser than her. It's just like me and her had that existing thing. And it's like you have to realize you not having an existing thing with these people is exactly why they don't owe you this. I remember I was talking to this girl, her boyfriend died. He passed away. And like I was like the first person to get with her after he passed away. Obviously she was not as forthcoming personality wise in general with me because she had a lot going on. She loved, oh, and by the way, she found out at his funeral that he cheated on her. I can't even imagine. Poor girl. But you know what I mean though? So it's like, would I be in a situation like, oh well, I guess she doesn't really like me. No, like I guess I'm just like not good enough for her, blah blah blah. I guess she's just like choosing something else, blah 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 blah. Like no. It's just like there's a situation that's taking a lot of her mental. And again, there could be life situations, bro, that's taking a lot of someone's mental. Someone could be depressed. They could have anxiety. They could have work problems. They could have school problems. Those are all things that could stop them from talking to you every day, that could cause them to like ghost you for a few days. So you taking that personally and you doing something like unfollowing or blocking, you're selling, not only you're selling the whole situation short, but you're shooting yourself in the foot. I thought I paused again. By the way, I know I've referenced this before, and the thing is, these videos, I low-key like don't edit them anymore. I low-key don't. So it's like I just like do my clips and I pause, but sometimes I miss the pause. But then so sometimes like I'll completely re-record, but it's like if I was talking for long enough, I'm like I'm not gonna re-record this. So it's like when I miss the pause, like I'm just telling you I missed the pause. I'm over here telling you how the sausage is made. But anyways, you see my point though? My point is like all this shit is not always about you. You know what I mean? Again, in a situation, you're actually their boyfriend, you're actually their girlfriend, and they start getting distant. Then it's like, okay, I see I'm not a priority here, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is, when you first meet someone, you're not a priority, and you shouldn't be, because you just met them. This is blowing my mind that this is a conversation. Like something I say here, there's more to life, okay? There's some people who aren't going through life thinking about dating. who this next person is. There are people who don't meet someone new and like have a romantic interest in them, or no, they do have romantic interest, but like they don't have romantic interest in them and think, oh my gosh, tunnel vision. I have to date this person. We have to be happily ever after. And it's like, also we need to establish there's a difference between this and just straight up rejecting someone, you know what I mean, and just kind of like hanging them around. Like I told you the situation with my girl, right? Like basically we both would leave each other on red for like periods of weeks because we didn't know each other. There was no investment. Like again, like to each other we were just attractive people. I was like, oh, like she's attractive, I know her, she's a thing, she exists. And I was probably the same exact thing to her. Like, oh, attractive guy, like we're just thing, you know what I mean? Like we're just people at the end of the day. Another situation is the situation with my ex, where y'all know we were like for 4 years I would talk to her and then like ghost her. You know what I mean? And she's like, no, like, why'd you ghost me? And I was like, like, I'm so sorry. And then I would like ghost her again. And I would just like do that again because like I would just kind of wander around. Like that's different because the thing is, me and her got to that point where like she was like, oh, I want something serious with you. And I lied and I was like, oh, I want something serious with you too. You know what I mean? Like that's a situation where you get out of there, okay? Not a situation where you just meet somebody. Oh yeah, another situation with my girl. When I met my girl, like through social media, I was practically, again, the girl who called me her dad's name, I was talking to her at the time. That was like practically like we were not monogamous, but like that was practically my girlfriend. You know what I mean? So it's like I had a lot of focus on her. So there's just no way that I was going to focus on this new person coming into the fray. There's no investment. And it's like these people are the first kinds of people to be like, oh, you know, looks aren't everything. It's about emotions. It's about getting to know someone. What's their personality like? But then at the same time, when someone's in a situation where they don't know someone's personality and then they kind of just like disregard them, they're like, what? Like how could you do that? Well, you clearly just don't like them. And look, here's the thing. Drip, this commenter, I don't know what he's saying. He said, my base assumption here is attraction. It's quite clear she definitely isn't feeling him in general. Again, like I said, you not texting someone doesn't mean you're not feeling them. When I was single, there were plenty of times where I was like, oh man, I think so-and-so is great. But like, I just wouldn't text them. And that, like, I would think to myself, like out the blue, like, oh, I should text so-and-so. You know what I mean? But it's just like, for one, some people aren't even texters. So it's like, it's just, this is such small-minding thinking. Okay, but anyways, he said, in general, I watch your videos. You tell me the ratio at which 5-day, and this isn't where it would have ended if he didn't unfollow. Responses time lead to anything for you. And I was like, what? Not gonna lie, the second half, I don't know what he means, okay? He says, I'm basically saying you tell me the ratio at which your successes come from girls that didn't respond to your messages for a week. It's like everything he's saying is very eloquent, but for some reason when he's trying to explain that, like it makes no sense. But now that I'm really thinking about it, I think he's like asking me like how many situations with women like I've been successful in when they hadn't like, when me and them like hadn't been like talking at first. I would tell you this, I've been in so many situations with women where we start talking and we're like, wait, when did we follow each other? Who followed who first? I don't know. I've been in plenty of situations with women where me and them were practically like just friends. Like we never flirted. But then all of a sudden, months later, there was a thing where it's like, okay, like now we're flirting a bit. And now it's the thing that's happening. I've been in situations with women where we met. They were either dating someone else at the time or they weren't dating someone else, but then like quickly got into a relationship. Then they broke up with the guy and then me and them started talking. Like those are things that there's no timeline, okay? The concept of me, no, you know what? This may be where all my success comes from, truthfully. The concept, oh my gosh, I accidentally punched my mic, I'm so sorry. The concept of me matching with someone on a dating app, following someone on Instagram, they follow me back, I DM them and we just start talking like continuously from that point on, you know, and there's like no breaks whatsoever. When I tell you, that is probably, or was like like when I was single, like probably like the most rare occurrence in my life. Like when it came to like people on the roster, like it just didn't play out like that. Whether it be I stopped texting them for a bit or they stopped texting me for a bit, it's just, that's not how things worked. And it's like, you got to understand, when you don't care about that sort of thing, you come off so much better. So it's like, again, like that's why, like now mind you, I could have been in situations where I was really just like pressing the issue like off the rip, like, oh, like I'm gonna text you every day, like, hey, where are you going? Hey, why don't you text me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure I would have been fine. But I'm telling you, the amount of people I had on the roster was much higher due to the fact that there wasn't pressure to have them on the roster. I wasn't applying pressure because it just wasn't necessary. Like something that I feel like you guys should like take from me is if I'm single, okay, and I'm in a situation where, oh, I think so-and-so is like super attractive. I followed them. They followed me back. We talked, we exchanged some messages, you know, maybe it's flirty, maybe it's not. I am comfortable with the fact where it's like, okay, this person thinks I'm attractive. I think they're attractive. That's it. That's it. Now, I'm not saying that's it for the rest of time, but it's like, I know at that point they're on the table because they are. You know, like that's simply how it works. And it's like, I feel like the only people who don't get this is people who have never had options. You know what I mean? So it's like, sometimes people, it just, again, timing. Like, think, like, people aren't just like gonna like mesh off the bat like that. So it's like, you meet them, you find them attractive, they find you attractive. Okay, great. You know, maybe one day we're gonna link up. Maybe not. Maybe one day I'm gonna slide into your DMs and say something more flirtatious. Maybe one day you're gonna slide into mine and say something more flirtatious. Like, do you see where I'm getting at? Like, it's like, if you have these options, you're not gonna be worried so much about this interaction. Like, y'all put so much weight into, oh my gosh, like, I need to talk to this person. Like, oh, I DM this person, are they gonna DM me back? It doesn't fucking matter, bro. It's like, you want your roster, you want the people you talk to be like this. You see this? When I do this, I mean like tight together. Like, you see my fists? But in reality, an effective roster, being effective with people in general, just in dating, it's free flowing. It's like this. Okay, and then one day, you know, once floating around, you can be like, wait, oh, this person looks really fine right now. Grab them. They're yours now. Like, that's what works, okay? Like, there are people in general, you understand, people in general don't like pressure being put on them. Most of the time, people do not like being put under pressure. People don't like talk to me or the highway. You know, if we're not talking every day, then you're clearly out the picture. Clearly don't. People don't want that pressure, especially in a situation where it's like they don't know you. They're not going to be sure. No one's going to be sure about someone that they don't know unless they are literally insane. Oh, and something else I want to point out about, he mentioned, he's something about like, if he doesn't text someone for 5 days, like they're better off leaving. Which, again, like, if you're telling, like, y'all cannot be this locked in. You cannot be this locked in with these randoms that like that you barely know someone and you're like, oh, I can't go 5 days without talking to them. But he said something that I think is important, okay, and I have to address it, okay? He said, some people don't want to be a part of a roster. I'd say, being unwilling to be part of a roster is inherently childish, okay? Inherently childish. I'll explain that in a second. But he says, I think you're self-aware enough to know you are the deviation from the norm and therefore can't view others using that perspective and hold them to your standards. Here's the thing. How do I say what I want to say? I understand entirely that not everyone thinks like me, okay? But something else I understand is that everyone should when it comes to certain things. Like, obviously, there are exceptions. Like, again, like a few videos I mentioned before, I talked about like how every time I have a conversation with someone, I'm thinking about how to defeat them. I'm thinking about how to win the conversation. I don't think people should think that. You know, I don't think that's valid. But I feel like when it comes to situations like this, I know how to not put myself in situations that would hurt my own feelings. I'm going full screen. I know that for a fact, you would feel better about something like that happens. Someone ghosting you, someone not texting you for a few days. You would feel better about that if you were talking to more than one person at once. If you were talking to more than one person, you would not be worried about whether or not someone's texting you back. Like, I'll tell you this, okay? It's very rare that like I talk about like being in a relationship, like completely like, and I give like full like, oh, this is like in your relationship, blah, 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 this should happen. Even though I do have some insightful things when it comes to stuff like that. I'm not like, oh, I'm perfect with relationships. I know how relationships work. I'm not always that guy, okay? Like, I'm not always coming to you with those things. But what I do come to you with, I know how talking stages work. Before you commit to someone monogamously, I know that shit like the palm of my hand. And it's like, I know how to not get dragged through the mud, and I know how to get dragged through the mud. I've looked at situations, again, situation with a girl who called me her dad's name. The problem was is I stopped talking to the other people I was talking to without any sort of, we were like, oh, you know, like one day, but like not now. You know what I mean? Like, as far as like commitment, you know what I mean? There was no timeline of commitment, and I just kept talking to this one person, and it led me to put up with so much mistreatment. It's like, I know that, okay? And it's like, as being someone who dragged these people through the mud, I also know how they could have avoided that. And I know, and I've told you this before, when it comes to situations like that, it's rare, not impossible, it's rare that I feel bad because I know exactly how I would avoid putting myself in that situation. Just like the instance, I kind of mentioned it earlier, where you follow someone on Instagram and you DM them and they don't respond to your DM, and then you unfollow them, and then people are like, oh, that's a weak move. The thing is, it kind of is. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't feel bad for you because I would never put myself in that position. Because it's stupid to DM someone who didn't follow you back. You know what I mean? But it's like, a lot of you sit here and you're victims. You're victims of talking stages. like just fluently, like constantly. You're in talking stages. You're getting completely dragged for filth. Okay, that this comment section full of it, because I could tell by the way they respond to the comment. So it's like, yes, the way I think when it comes to talking stages, situationships, etc., isn't common, but it should be, because what I'm saying is accurate. What I'm saying is correct. Like I'm telling you right now, if you go into these situations not with the mindset of this person owes me this person owes me that, or like, oh, they stopped texting me, they should have done this, they should have done that, the least they could do is blah, 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 you are going to be in so much more hurt than being in a position where it's like, oh, they just didn't text me back. That's unfortunate. I have these other people I can talk to. I have these other things to do with my life rather than worry about this person who I just met texting me or not. So it's like, you can sit here and tell me like, oh, you're such a unique guy. You know, you're not like everyone else. But it's like, people should be like me to an extent. You know, like when it comes to things like that specifically, I'm not a perfect person. There's a lot of, topics where I'm completely like fish out of water, bunch of shit I'm stupid about, like in life. But when I tell you, I know how to avoid being dragged through the mud in situationships. Like, bro, like, why wouldn't you want to think like me? It's like Donald Trump giving you money advice, and you're like, bro, like he's just he's a different kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, bro, we can't think like that. He's just a different kind of guy. I mean, he's giving you financial fucking advice, bro. You know what I mean? Like, again, like you may not want to be like me in the everyday life, but like I can tell you how to not get yourself hurt. The same way Donald Trump could probably tell you how to accumulate. I cannot talk. Accumulate wealth if he was having a conversation with you about it. You know what I'm saying? And look, you can either believe that or not. I know some people like that thing. I'm just like completely full of BS, right? But the thing is, this person, he doesn't seem to think I'm full of BS in general. He just seems to think, oh, well, he's a different guy. He has a different mindset. But the thing is, me being a different guy, me having this different mindset has prevented me from feeling a lot of the pain that people like y'all, and y'all is a general statement. I'm not even saying like that commenter in particular, but like just like people in that comment section, that pain that they feel, I avoid it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I'm not just different because I'm different. I'm different because I know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about. But again, people getting dragged through the mud. I'm in the situation. People DM me all the time, like, oh, I'm in this situation with this girl. Bro, she's playing games with me, yada, yada, yada. Situations I would never find myself in the talking stage, knock on wood. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, I can tell them how to get out of it. And the thing is, the solution half the time, talking to somebody else. Legitimately. It's not, and the thing is, when I say talk to someone else, I don't mean talk to someone else in the sense where it's like make them jealous. You talking to someone else not only makes you feel better because you just have like your whole mind is not on this one person. Because again, your mind, unless you're dating someone monogamously, your entire mind should not be on one person. So not only is your mind not on that one person, you have other stuff going on with this other person, but also the way you behave towards the other person. Again, like you're not gonna be just putting up with any shit for them, but the way you like interact around them is going to be more attractive. Like I remember this one guy, I went to Columbia University, right? He walked out to me. He was like, "Yo, like I'm in a situation with this girl, blah 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 blah." Basically, she was playing with him. Okay, they started talking. Like things were good, and then like she started pulling away. Okay, and they were in like the same friend group or whatever. It was some stuff, right? And I literally I was like, "Bro, this is very simple. Talk to someone else. She's playing games with you. She's giving you hot and cold. If she's giving you hot and cold, just not even be cold. Just be neutral. If you tell these people that like their games aren't working, like if they're hot and colding and you're like, hey, you're hot and colding me, why are you doing this? That's when they know it works. That's when they keep doing it. When people do stuff like that intentionally, they do it for reactions. Okay, so you giving them a reaction is you giving them the win. So anyways, I told them, don't worry about it. Just be cool. Talk to someone else. Distract your mind, like whatever you have to do. And guess what? Literally, I saw him again the next week, and he was like, bro, it worked, bro. Like, she's back on the roster. And I'm like, exactly. So it's like, when it comes to shit like that, for whatever reason, for whatever, entity gave me that power, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just being different to be different. I'm not just having this unique take to have this unique take. I have these unique takes because they are better for me. I am a slimy guy. I'm a slimy individual. And in being that, I know how to avoid the slime. I know how to avoid being in situations that I've put people in. Or not in reality, situations they put themselves in. I would know how to not put myself in those situations. And again, we talked about it before. Like that girl that I led on for 4 years, I was ghosting her constantly. Like not gonna lie. And things I've been in similar situations to that. I remember that one girl, me and her were talking, like things were like relatively serious. She ended up like getting back with her ex in the middle, didn't say anything to me, just got ghosted. Okay, and I was like, dang, this sucks. But again, not only did I have other people I was talking to, I just moved on. She ended up sliding back on me later, right? And we started talking again, and it was the same shit, except I remembered. I was like, oh, me and her, we were getting pretty serious. Like we were talking about like being serious with each other, and she ghosted me out the blue. So I'm not going to put as much weight into this scenario as I did the first one. Like me and her, we can still date, we can still have fun, we can do whatever. But like a monogamous relationship, not on the table. You know what I mean? And there's no need for any sort of revenge or anything like that because I simply don't care. It's just like, okay, I'm not going to expect, again, it's expectations. The reason I was messed up when she ghosted me is because I was like, I didn't expect her to ghost me. But now when I'm like, oh, like I really don't have any expectations between this dynamic, it was so much better for me. She could have ghosted me again, and I really wouldn't have cared, like at all, because I didn't put that weight into it, okay? But then the situation with that girl is in where it was like 4 years. Her problem was she would put the same amount of weight into it every time. And it's like, bro, if someone ghosts you so many times, eventually you just got to give up on them. You got to understand, yeah, you thought you were going to date this person. Yeah, you thought you were going to be, and this actually factors into like this Twitter post, okay? It's like, yeah, you thought you were going to be with this person, whatever. Just hang back a little bit. Like, it's fine. And that's another reason why I don't like vibe with the unfollow. Because it's like, that's too much. Like, you don't have to be doing that. It's just like, okay, me and this person, I thought me and them would be on this level, but actually we're going to be on a lower level. And it's fine. Like, it's just not that deep. And it's like, y'all just don't understand. It's like, thinking like this is not just, this isn't me being a nonchalant dreadhead type. This is not me being toxic, quote unquote. Literally, if you think this way, you will not be hurt by like literally like 9 times out of 10 the situations that you've been hurt by. I've been in situations, right, in talking stages with people where if I told you what happened between me and them, you would be like, oh man, like that was tough for you. But it wasn't, because I knew exactly how to position myself in order for like it to not really affect me. Again, and 90% of that is just talking to more than one person. And again, that's not in a sleazy way. That's in a, you should be getting to know multiple people. You know what I mean? Especially at younger ages. It's like, you don't really know what you want. Explore these people. Like, it just bothers me, okay? I understand. I'm a unique guy, okay? But it bothers me when people are like, oh, like, you're unique. You're unique. Like, this, you're just different. You know what I mean? Like, someone else commented, they're like, oh, don't take anything this guy says seriously. Which I didn't like that either. But it's like, oh, like, I'm just such a different guy. You understand? In some aspects, I'm different just because I am different. Like, yeah, most guys, like, don't wear, like, drop earrings like this, like, I say things, like I'm like, oh, yeah, like, that was such a slutty outfit. Like, I just say weird stuff, okay? Like, there's stuff where I'm just, like, outside the box human being, okay? But when it comes to things like this particular mindset, I'm not unique because I'm a weird guy. I'm unique because I'm right. And it's like, I really need y'all to understand that. Like, I'm right. Like, a lot of you put yourselves in these positions over and over again. You get hurt by the same situation over and over again. You're in this situationship. You're like, oh man, this sucks. You get into another situationship. Oh man, this sucks. You're not learning the lessons. And then I have my takes, and you're like, oh nah, bro. You're just kind of different. You're just a different dude. Like, you don't think it's worth a shot? Like I'm telling you that like the situations that you get into, I don't get into. Like, I mean, part of it, yes, I'm handsome, so like I don't deal with certain things, but like I'm telling you that I don't suffer from the problems that you suffer with, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, no, just because like you're different. Like, don't you want to emulate something about that? Like, if I work out and I keep spraining my ankle, and then there's some guy on the internet being like, oh yeah, I've never sprained my ankle, blah 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 blah. Like, this is how I work out, blah 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 blah. I'm not gonna be like, man, bro, his ankles just must be like super strong. No, I'm gonna be like, I wonder what he's doing differently from me that keeps him from his ankles being sprained. So it's like, yeah, bro, I'm a weirdo. I'm a weird guy. I'm goofy. I'm silly. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a very oddball of a human being. But at the same time, I be right. I be correct. Like, and the things, I try not to come off like conceited when I like say stuff like this, but it's like, bro, like I'm right. Like, I've argued with people all my life in different situations, okay? About dating, not about dating, in real life, over the internet, people I know, people I don't know. I've been in arguments. And when I tell you, when it's something like this, I will always be able to tell you why. And that means something. But something I noticed is when I'm arguing with these people, when I ask them why, sometimes they can't tell me. Whether they either like dodge the question or they just straight up tell me, I don't know why. So when he says this thing, he's like, oh, some people don't want to be on a roster. And I'm like, I think that's childish. And the things, I'm going to explain why I think it's childish in a second. But if I ask him why, and he says something like, oh, well, some people, they just don't want to be an option. And if I'm like, oh, well, if you just meet someone and it's very early on, like, why wouldn't you want to be an option? Like, how do you get picked if you're not an option? I ask something like, oh, well, why do they need to like you at first sight? Why should they commit to you when they've been talking to you for like a couple of weeks? And mind you, when it comes to things like that, I'll tell you exactly what the answer is. The answer is they're insecure. You know what I mean? Like, oh, if this person doesn't like me right away, then they just simply don't like me enough. Also, again, short term, what's it called? Instant gratification. That's what they want. You know what I mean? Like, no form of patience, no sort of like reasonability for like the fact that like this is just not how human interactions work. It's like, if I can explain your point and why you have it better than you can explain it, and like you can't really tell me any differently, it just looks like I'm right. Like, again, in this situation, there's absolutely no reason why you first meet someone and you quote unquote don't want to be a part of the roster. Now, if you were to tell me, oh, like long term, like I don't want to be on a roster for a month, stuff like that, okay, completely different thing, okay? But you just meet somebody. You're talking for less than a month and you quote unquote don't want to be on the roster? You think it's somehow unfair that this person's talking to more than one person at a time before they even met you, by the way, like literally. And the things, we see memes about it all the time. They're like, oh, I don't care if we met today. Like, you gotta drop the hose by tonight or drop the hose by yesterday. But again, this person doesn't know you. They don't know how amazing you are. They don't know how like sweet you are, like everything about you that like you just think deserves like the best dating experience ever. They don't know these things. They were talking to other people. These people who also show these great qualities that you claim to have. Why wouldn't they? Why would they stop talking to them the instant that they met you? Do you see what I'm getting at here? Okay, it's like, not only should you talk to more than one person at a time, but also you need to understand when you meet someone and they are talking to other people, it is unreasonable to expect them to stop talking to those other people just because they met you. Again, as you get to know each other and I'm like, hey, I want something serious with you. Oh, well, I want something serious with you too. Blah, blah, blah. That's a completely different thing. But from the jump, you saying, well, I want to be the only person that you talk to is childish. You're sitting there insecure, whining, oh man, they don't want me enough. No, they don't think I'm perfect and precious. No, they're not going all out for me when we just met. It's simply childish. Like, objectively. You know what I mean? Like, you see how I explain that point? Like, do you see how I have reasoning? I have reasoning for almost anything I say that's like in this context. Like, obviously, like I'm just gonna like say like things like just like off the top of my head where it's like I'm not really like thinking about them that much. But if like I'm making a claim, right, and I'm like, this is my opinion. My opinion is this. I'm not like, oh, this is just a feeling I have. This is just the way I am. I can always provide you why I think that way and why I feel like that's the optimal way to think. And the thing is, mind you, in these situations, objectively just the optimal way to think. Like, again, if bro who unfollowed her because he was undelivered for 5 days, was talking to multiple people, understood the fact that like she didn't owe him anything, he would not have been hurt enough to unfollow her. If he understood it was unreasonable to expect someone that you just met to like communicate, oh, I'm busy, I'm so sorry, like I can't do this, blah 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 blah. Like, if he understood that even in general, it's just not that deep. It's not that serious, that they just met. There's no sort of commitment that they had to each other. He wouldn't have been hurt enough to unfollow. So it's like, I'm telling you these things to help you. I'm telling these things to make you feel more comfortable, more secure in yourself. And you're hitting me with the, yeah, don't listen to anything BRS says. He's just a different kind of guy. Like, okay, here's the thing. Literally, bro, hold on, I gotta make myself small again. You gotta understand. Oh, no. Negativity is always like negativity, if that makes sense. How do I explain it? This comment, okay, seeing what she did as a bad thing is inherently just like negative energy. Like, all these people in the comments thinking, oh, well, you didn't like him enough, so like that's why he did it. You know what I mean? Like, you just weren't interested in him enough. You were playing games with him, blah 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 blah. That is negative thinking. That is, in a sense, negative self-talk. Again, if you're in a situation where someone doesn't talk to you for 5 days and you're like, oh wow, they don't like me enough, I'm out of here, that is negative self-talk. Okay, opposed to a situation where you're like, oh, they haven't talked to me for 5 days, maybe they're busy, maybe they have something going on. Oh, I don't really know them like that. Like, they don't really understand like how cool I am, so like, like there's no reason that like that they owe me some form of conversation. Like, that second mindset of like, oh yeah, like they don't really owe me anything, it's fine, like it doesn't reflect negatively on me or them. That is objectively the better way to think than, oh, you weren't interested enough in me, and oh, well, actually, now you have a fragile ego. Like, and then like, again, like hurling insults like, oh, you have a fragile ego because you left them undelivered for 5 days, yada yada yada. Do you see what I mean? Okay, in life, there are things that are big deals. You know what I mean? Like, you're dating someone and they like lay their hands on you. That is a big deal. Okay, there are things that aren't little deals. Say you're dating someone and they fell asleep, so they didn't get to text you for a few hours because they were asleep. They were, oh sorry, I didn't mean to punch my mic. They were like tired. And then there's the in between shit, okay? Like being on delivered for 5 days. And if you make the in between shit big shit, like, oh, the principle of like, they left me undelivered for 5 days, you are suffering. These people, again, she herself, the person who posted, did not comment about her level of interest in him. All she said is that he was undelivered for 5 days. Okay, she could have been obsessed with him. Again, I was in situations where I was in the hospital, I couldn't text someone back, people were undelivered, and I got like blocked by a few people for that because they thought I was playing games. But it's like you being in a situation and assuming, oh man, like they don't like me because they haven't talked to me for a few days. I guess they just don't like me enough. No. Now I have to unfollow. Now I can never talk to this person again. I can never get anything that I want out of this person because they didn't talk to me for a few days. You are punishing yourself. You're punishing them. Yeah, sure. Like she can't talk to him again. Like poor her, even though she wasn't doing that in the first place. You are punishing both of you. Like I need y'all to understand, like a lot of the stuff that y'all do and y'all say, you're punishing yourself. Oh, like again, oh, I can't listen to R. Kelly because of what he did, blah, blah, blah. You're punishing yourself because you don't want to hear great music over like what he did. Again, you're punching his bottom line, I guess, which again, like you not streaming him. Yeah, I'm sure that cost him like $1.50. I mean, even though he's in jail right now, but you're punishing yourself more. And it's like when you do things like this, you're always punishing yourself more. Okay. When you have these dramatic reactions to these things that don't warrant them, you're always punishing yourself. And it's like, I just truly need you guys to understand that. Okay. Like literally, like it really grinded my gears. Like if you catch yourself in a moment, right, where, you're in a situation, you're like the people like defending in the comment section being like, oh, well, she didn't like him, blah, blah, blah. Or like, oh, if someone does not talk to me for 5 days, that means they don't like me, blah, blah, blah. I want you to ask yourself, why are you thinking that negative thing? Why are you putting the onus on yourself that someone else isn't texting you? Because I want to say any situation where I wasn't getting texted, I was like, oh, probably busy. Oh, other stuff going on. Oh, they don't know me. Like this person doesn't know me, so I can't really expect them to treat me like I'm as great as I feel like I am. But some of you and some of the people in this comments, your thought is, they don't like me. Oh, they don't like me, no. And again, I'm guilty of it to an extent too, because again, I think about situations where it's like where women want like provider men. And I'm like, oh yeah, like you just don't like those men. Other than I could see it as like, oh, just like not being compatible. But the thing is, that's a bigger thing. Okay, that's like taking advantage of somebody. So I do feel like it's different in that sense. But okay, but like even that mindset is me punishing myself a bit. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, like I was with a woman and she just wanted my money, blah, 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 blah. Then like she must not like me very much. That's a self-punishing thought. And the thing is, sometimes those thoughts are necessary. Like you're in a situation, say you're in a situation, someone lays their hands on you and you're like, you know what, whatever this isn't love. That is a self-punishing thought. You know what I mean? The fact that like, oh, like they don't love me because they put their hands on me. Okay, but like the thing is, some things you have to think of that way with. You know what I mean? Like in that situation, you have no choice because you're doing more harm than good by staying in the situation. But in a situation where it's something as small as someone not texting you and you thinking, oh, they don't like me, they're not into me, they're not feeling me. That's a self-punishing thought that is not at all worth it, okay? And this better have made sense to you. Because when I say I'm cooking, like I know I'm cooking. Like I'm cooking so much, bro, my throat is sore. Like I don't know if you can hear it, like my voice is low-key going away. But anyways, that's the video. State of affairs, I'm trying to think, what do I got going on? Now, I gotta hurry up, bro. It's 7:21, I gotta get this video out. Okay, so anyways, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, everything I have to say. I'm so sorry. And I love you, platonically, okay? Have a great day, night, evening, morning.